And good evening, everybody. This is Vinny Miletti with Miletti Law, the strongest name in law. The day is November 19th. We are driving down to the Florida Keys, and this is going to be so far we have 19 hours left on this road trip, and I got a pretty much of a late start today, but we got 19 hours on this road trip, so let's get down to it. First and foremost, click this is going to be a different type of video. Click the subscribe button. That's first and foremost. Make sure you subscribe. You catch all the updates. We always got tons of cool stuff going on, content, everything. And you know, always make sure you go to www.milettilaw.com, www.milettilaw.com, and you know, sign up for the newsletter. Don't mind me, I'm trying to like reduce some of the wind over here in the car, and sign up for the newsletter, and you know, go ahead and be in the know. We always have, like I said, we always have new content fresh every single day. You know, from the heaviest name in law, from the strongest name in law, heaviest gavel in law. All right, so okay, so this is a new series of video. This video really hasn't much to do with the law. This video has to do more with actually politics. So just as a quick backdrop to this, I've been trying to get more involved in things like Twitter. I've been trying to like reach out to more like political candidates and maybe news media and journalists and stuff like this. And you know, my admin, you know, she does a fantastic job at locating and finding these things, finding these people. You know, she does an amazing job. So what I kind of wanted to do was I kind of wanted to have like a series of videos. I mean, listening to me speak, you know, you probably know my politics right away. Just listening to me, just speaking to me, just hearing me talk. You know, you probably know my politics, just my personality. You probably know my politics pretty well. But I kind of wanted to just give I kind of wanted to give kind of like a State of the Union kind of address, you know? You know, because I want a place where I can couch them all together. I can couch all my thoughts together. I could put like a, you know, kind of like a table of contents, like this being the first introductory video, and just kind of go through everything.
Police reported ahead.
And police reported ahead. And this can kind of just go through everything. Oh yeah, look at that. There are a lot of police there. And just kind of just go through everything and where the stances are and the positions are. And I think that once you understand the position that we take here at Miletti Law, a lot of things, once you understand our positions, you kind of see where we are overall, how we model as a company, and why, and like what our appeal is, right? Because I mean, the reality is the business model follows the mentality of the owner, you know? So like, so for example, I mean, you know, my key principle in life, and all of you know, which is why I'm driving to Florida, I'm not taking the plane. The key principle in anything you get from Miletti Law, the key principle to understand is that the most important right you have, the Bill of Rights is going to be your freedom of speech and your freedom of speech, freedom of expression, your personal freedom, your personal autonomy. Your freedom is going to be the most important right you have, simply because your freedom is what's going to advance you in society. Your freedom is going to be everything that is built in your personality, in how you work, and how you perform, and how you live your life, and how your principles and your morals are. Every single thing that you produce in your life is going to stem from your personal freedoms. I mean, that is without a fact. That is without like any doubt, without a doubt, excuse me. That is without a doubt. You should always zealously protect your freedom. You should always zealously defend your freedom. You should always zealously defend the right to do what you want to do. You know, so long as you don't hurt other people, there's got to be a caveat. But you should always zealously defend the right to do what you want to do, and you should defend others that same right. You know, because it's very critical. Because remember, this is when it comes to discussing politics, you have to understand, you know, with everything there's a good and a bad, and a lot of times you have to accept the risk that comes with the good and the bad. So for instance, an example, you know, I enjoy personal freedom. I enjoy personal freedom a lot. You know, in my mind, everyone has 4 freedoms, right? The freedom to try, the freedom to try, the freedom to buy, the freedom to win, and the freedom to lose. And if you do not like take those 4 freedoms collectively, then you have a problem. So, you know, having the right to lose is just as important as having the right to be free from harm, having the right to win, having the right to try, having the right to buy. Like it goes both ways, because what happens is when you start cherry picking and you start pulling things away, you start pulling little caveats out, you basically lose the integrity of the whole principle. And you have to, you know, as in society, you have to understand things aren't always rosy. Things always have risk. You know, every day you wake up in the morning, you have risk, right? So you need to understand that it's a price you pay for your own personal freedom. So a perfect example, I'm not going to beat up on COVID. Let's just go back a little bit in time. Let's look at the Patriot Act. A perfect example of this is the Patriot Act. Everybody, you know, was up in arms about, well, no, let's not say everybody. The political left was up in arms about the Patriot Act, that every, you know, whatever the case is, that it was infringing on your rights, and whatever the case. And the political right, because it came from W, was this is the greatest thing ever. We need this to protect terror. We need to protect from terrorists and blah, 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 blah. I was not a proponent of that. I'm still to this day not a proponent of that, because the simple fact is, you know, there's a process in place. There should be no, you know, warrantless wiretaps. There should be nothing like this, unless like it's an emergent situation that like is someone's gonna die in 10 minutes. That's a different ball game, and you know you need to do it, and it's articulable, and later on, and whatever the case is. But for the most part, you know, look, you need to take the good and the bad. So I would rather it be more difficult to stop a crime, and then you have to get the proper warrants from the judge, and you have to get the proper procedural paperwork in place. I would rather that be the case than the flip side, where it's flimsy and you need any of that, because we don't live in a police state, you know, and we shouldn't be. And but the point I'm trying to make out is, using that as an example, you can't just always look, like, you can't cherry pick things. Sometimes you got to take the bad with the good, you know, and sometimes you got to take something that makes you a little uncomfortable in order to, you know, facilitate the greater good. And that's the purpose of, you know, that's the purpose of this, right? So, you know, that's, in my mind, that's like the great, you know, my Miletti law is about freedom. Miletti law is about individual liberty. You know, we zealously protect people's freedoms, people's rights. Now I'll go back to COVID. Obviously, you know, 2020 was a terrible situation. You know, we watched wide-scale closing of businesses on the whim from tyrannical government. You know, not particularly excited that Trump didn't say nothing, because, you know, he was apparently, you know, he could have said things, and he could have made moves, and he could have stood in the way, but he didn't, you know, for whatever the case may be. And, you know, that entire situation was a disaster, right? The amount of harm. New York City is still reeling. There's still people that aren't paying rents. There's still landlords, there's still landlords that are shy $80,000, $90,000 that just aren't making money. Like, contrary to what you people think, you know, just because you're a landlord doesn't mean you own a ton of money. You make a fortune. Just because, you know, you happen to be a business owner doesn't mean you're making a fortune. You know, people in New York are not cash heavy. They're just not. They got credit cards. People in New York aren't cash heavy, and it's a challenge, you know, in New York City to make it, because of the regulations and the shutdowns and the government control is a big problem. So, you know, that's like another like concept, right? So like freedom, the right to be free, the right to act for your freedom to try, the freedom to buy, the freedom to win, the freedom to lose, because it's all part of an ideal, right? So freedom is all part of an ideal. People like me, libertarians, you know, aggressive libertarians, people like me believe that you as the individual, you know, you acknowledge you're imperfect. You're imperfect under your creator. You acknowledge that you're imperfect. You make mistakes, but you need to be able to go through the mistakes. People are rational. They're intelligent for most purposes, because there is a group of people that aren't. But people are rational, intelligent. They need to make rational, intelligent decisions. They need to be given the right and the freedom to make rational, intelligent decisions. And if they don't have those rights, you don't have a functioning society. Because you can't. Because the only other alternative is a never-ending nanny state that continuously shelters people, that continuously collects everybody, continuously rules and determines business and livelihoods. And that's not proper. That not only is that unsustainable from a government perspective, not only is that unsustainable, but at the end of the day, that deprives you of your individualism. That deprives you of your free autonomy. That deprives you of developing who you want to be in life. And until you appreciate that, which Americans don't for some reason, second generation Americans don't, but until you appreciate that, you will never, you'll never have the proper basis for your potential. You need to be free to make your decisions, to make your mistakes, to learn your lessons, and to push and try hard. And you need to be free from that. And that's critical. So Miletti law, from the onset, is about freedom. Miletti law loves freedom in terms of law, in terms of legal drafting, in terms of drafting laws and regulations. We are always in favor of a regulation that promotes more freedom than restricts, and to sometimes the detriment of people, sometimes to the suffering of people. You need that excessive freedom, because you are better off with more freedom than you are with less. You are better off with more uncertainty than you are with certainty. But at the end of the day, you need to be in control of that. And that's the one ideal that's above everything in this country. That is the one ideal that is iconic about being an American. That's why it is the First Amendment. It is the first thing that people wanted, the first thing that the founders wanted. And it's a tremendous benefit that separates us from all the other nations in the world. That's really what separates us from all the other nations in the world, that concept of freedom. And I'm going to leave this video, I'm going to leave part one, the overarching principle of Miletti law, freedom. And that is the ideal and the appeal that needs to be upheld in every situation, no matter what. Even if it makes you upset, even if it makes you scared, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, and even if, it doesn't protect you from yourself and from everybody else, freedom must be upheld at all costs. Sometimes you have to, and especially now in 2020, 2021, when your freedoms are basically being taken away essentially daily at this point, there needs to be a real turnaround on this, and there needs to be some real awakening. Either that, or we need to start voting with hollow points and giving violence a chance. So, that's Miletti law's take on that. So this was part one, okay, of the series. In the next series, we're going to start touching on certain issues. The structure is going to be, we're going to go to what's that called? On the facts, on the issues, and we're just going to outline precisely what political candidates, we're going to outline in the same way they do, and we're going to have just brief 10-minute conversations and discussing all of these. So it's been real. That was episode number 1. That's just the introductory. I'm going to check some emails. Well, I'm going to check some text messages, and then we're going to come back to it. It was on law, love, and lives, and now politics. Later.